The Archive of Forgotten Worlds. A sci-fi story. Part 1. The derelict structure drifted in the intergalactic dark like a wound that refused to heal. No star claimed it. No trajectory explained it. It simply was, a monolithic lattice of obsidian ribs and pale, glassy membranes, suspended in the void between the Perseus Spur and the uncharted gulf beyond. The Alethea scanners struggled to define its edges. The structure seemed to distort the space around it, as if reality itself bent to avoid touching it. Commander Rhea Solari stood at the observation deck, watching the alien construct rotate with glacial slowness. Its surfaces caught the distant starlight and refracted it into impossible colors, spectra that didn't exist in any known physics model. "It's bigger than the scans suggested," murmured Dr. Cale Ivers, the mission's xenolinguist. His breath fogged the glass. "And older. Much older." Rhea didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on a single detail. A circular aperture near the structure's equator, opening and closing like a mechanical iris. It wasn't random. It was rhythmic, intentional. "It's inviting us in," she said. Cale swallowed. "Or warning us away." Rhea turned from the window. "Prep the shuttle. We're going." The shuttle Vigilant detached from the Alethea with a soft jolt, its engines humming as it drifted toward the alien structure. The aperture dilated as they approached, revealing a tunnel lined with crystalline filaments that pulsed faintly, like neurons firing in slow motion. "Radiation levels stable," reported engineer Amy Vance, her fingers dancing across the console. "Atmosphere inside the structure is non-existent, but the temperature is controlled. Artificial. Artificial and ancient," Cale added. "I'm detecting energy signatures that predate any known civilization. This place shouldn't exist." Rhea kept her gaze forward. Yet here it is. The shuttle glided into the tunnel. The aperture sealed behind them with a whispering sound that none of the instruments detected, but all three of them felt. A pressure in the skull, a subtle tightening behind the eyes. "Did you?" Amy began. "Yes," Rhea said. "Stay focused." The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, large enough to house a small moon. The walls were lined with towering spires of translucent material, each one filled with swirling lights that moved like trapped auroras. Cale's voice trembled. This is an archive." Rhea guided the shuttle to a landing platform that rose from the floor like a beckoning hand. "Gear up. We're going in." The air inside the structure was still and cold, but breathable thanks to their suits. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, illuminating the nearest spire. It was smooth to the touch, warm despite the ambient chill. Amy ran a scanner over it. "There's data inside. Massive amounts. Holographic matrices, memory constructs, something else I can't identify." Cale stepped closer. "Look." The lights inside the spire shifted, forming shapes. Cities, landscapes, beings of impossible anatomy. Entire worlds flickered in and out of existence within the crystalline depths. Rhea felt a chill crawl up her spine. "None of these match any known star system." Cale nodded slowly. "Because they don't exist. Not anymore." Rhea turned to him. "Explain." Cale swallowed. "These aren't just records of alien civilizations. They're records of civilizations that have been erased. Not extinct. Not collapsed. Erased. As if their universes were overwritten." Amy frowned. "That's impossible." Cale's eyes were wide. "So is this place." Rhea stepped back from the spire. "We need to find the core. Whatever built this archive left it here for a reason." As they moved deeper into the chamber, the spires grew taller, denser, more complex. Some were cracked, their lights dimmed. Others pulsed with frantic intensity, as if trying to communicate. The deeper they went, the more Rhea felt a pressure building behind her eyes. A whispering sensation, like someone trying to speak directly into her thoughts. She ignored it, mostly. They reached the central nexus, a circular platform surrounded by a ring of floating glyphs. The glyphs rotated slowly, rearranging themselves into patterns that defied linguistic structure. Kale approached them with reverence. This is a control interface. Or a warning system. Or both. Amy circled the platform. Energy readings are spiking. Something's waking up. Rhea stepped onto the platform. The glyphs froze. Then they aligned into a single coherent symbol. A spiral collapsing inward, devouring itself. Kale inhaled sharply. That symbol appeared in several of the Spire records. It marks the end of each civilization. Rhea reached out. "Commander, wait," Kale began. Her fingers brushed the symbol. The world shattered. She stood on a desert world beneath a violet sky. Twin suns burned overhead. A city of glass towers stretched before her, humming with life. She knew this place. She had grown up here. She had walked these streets as a child. She had studied in the Hall of Echoes. A shadow fell across the sky, a spiral of darkness, devouring the stars. People screamed. The towers cracked. The ground trembled. Rhea tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She watched as the spiral descended, erasing the city, the world, the sky. She gasped and fell to her knees. Kale and Amy were beside her, shouting, but their voices were distant, muffled. Rhea's vision blurred. She saw flashes, other worlds, other lives. A forest planet where she had been a hunter. A crystalline ocean world where she had been a scholar. A gas giant habitat where she had been a child watching the storms. None of them were hers. All of them felt real. The spiral consumed each one. She screamed. When she came back to herself, she was lying on the platform, her suit's vitals blaring warnings. Kale knelt beside her, pale and shaking. "Commander, did you see it too?" Rhea forced herself upright. "You saw something?" Kale nodded. "A world of floating monoliths. I lived there. I remember it. I remember my family, my work, my death." Amy's voice was small. "I saw a world made of living metal. I was someone else. Someone who died billions of years ago." Rhea steadied her breathing. "These memories aren't ours." Kale looked at the spires surrounding them. The archive isn't just storing data. It's storing consciousness, lives, entire histories. Amy shivered. Why would it show them to us? Rhea looked at the spiral symbol still glowing faintly. "Because it's trying to warn us." Kale swallowed. "Warn us about what?" Rhea met his gaze. "About whatever erased those worlds." They returned to the Vigilant in silence, each lost in the echoes of lives that weren't theirs. The shuttle's interior felt too small, too bright, too real compared to the shifting memories that clung to their minds like cobwebs. As they lifted off, the archive pulsed once. An immense, slow heartbeat. Kale stared at it through the viewport. "It's alive." Amy shook her head. "Not alive. A machine. A machine built by something that understood consciousness better than we understand physics." Rhea didn't speak. Her mind was still reeling from the visions. The spiral, the devouring dark, the sense of inevitability. When they docked with the Alethea, the ship's AI greeted them with a soft chime. "Welcome back, Commander Solari. Your biometrics indicate elevated stress levels. Do you require medical assistance?" "No," Rhea said. "Lock down the shuttle bay. No one enters without my authorization." "Confirmed." Kale removed his helmet, his face pale. "Rhea, we need to analyze the data we collected. The archive showed us something catastrophic. Something that could happen again." Rhea nodded. "We will. But first, we need to understand what we're dealing with." Amy hesitated. "Commander, I'm still remembering things. Flashes. People I've never met. Places I've never been." Kale exhaled shakily. "Me too." Rhea closed her eyes. "It's not just memories. It's integration. The archive imprinted fragments of those civilizations onto us." Kale looked horrified. "You're saying we're contaminated?" Rhea opened her eyes. "I'm saying we've been chosen." The briefing room felt colder than usual. The lights dimmed automatically as Rhea activated the holographic display. The archive appeared above the table, a rotating lattice of impossible geometry. Kale and Amy sat across from her, both visibly shaken. Rhea began. The archive contains records of at least 47 civilizations. None of them correspond to any known star systems, species, or historical epochs. Kale added, and every one of them ends the same way, with the spiral. Amy rubbed her temples. What is the spiral? A weapon? A natural phenomenon? Rhea zoomed in on the symbol. It's not a weapon. It's not natural. It's an event. Collapse. A deletion. Kale frowned. Deletion. Rhea nodded. Not destruction. Not extinction. Erasure. As if the universe itself rewrote its own history and removed them. Amy's voice trembled. But why? Kale looked at the hologram. Maybe they were a threat. Maybe they broke some cosmic rule. Maybe something decided they didn't belong. Rhea shook her head. No, the archive wasn't built to preserve them. It was built to warn whoever came after. Kale swallowed. Warn us about what? Rhea stared at the spiral. About something powerful enough to delete universes. Silence filled the room. Then Amy whispered, Commander, what if it's still out there? Rhea didn't answer, because she already knew. It was, and the archive had shown her its hunger. That night Rhea dreamed. She stood in a void filled with drifting fragments of broken worlds. Shattered continents. Frozen oceans. Cities suspended in mid-collapse. A voice whispered behind her. You are the last. She turned. The spiral loomed above her, vast and endless, devouring the stars. Remember them, the voice said. Remember us. Rhea reached out. The spiral surged forward. She woke screaming. Kale was waiting for her in the corridor outside her quarters, his eyes haunted. You saw it again, he said softly. Rhea nodded. You too. He nodded. It's getting stronger. Rhea steadied herself. We need to go back. Kale blinked. Back? Rhea, the archive is dangerous. It's rewriting us. Rhea met his gaze. Exactly. And that means it still has more to show us. Kale hesitated. What if we're not meant to survive it? Rhea turned toward the shuttle bay. Then we'll die knowing the truth. Kale followed her. Amy was already waiting by the shuttle, pale but resolute. I knew you'd come back, she said. Rhea nodded. Let's finish what we started. The Vigilant detached once more, descending into the waiting dark. The archive opened for them, and the memories surged like a rising tide. Part 2. The archive greeted them with silence. Not the absence of sound, but a deeper, older quiet, like the stillness inside a tomb that had never been opened. The crystalline spires pulsed faintly as the Vigilant descended, their lights shifting in patterns that felt almost like breathing. Rhea felt the memories pressing at the edges of her mind, eager, insistent. Lives she had never lived whispered to her, begging to be remembered. As the shuttle touched down, the platform beneath them lit up with a soft, amber glow. It knows we're back, Amy whispered. Kale swallowed. Or it never stopped watching. They stepped out into the chamber. The air felt thicker this time, as if the archive had grown denser, more aware. The spires hummed faintly, their lights flickering in synchronized pulses. Rhea led them toward the central nexus. The glyphs were already waiting. The moment Rhea stepped onto the platform, the glyphs ignited in a spiral of light. The symbol of collapse, the devouring spiral, hovered above the floor, rotating slowly. Kale's breath hitched. It wants to show us more. Rhea nodded. Let it. The spiral expanded, engulfing the chamber in blinding white, and the world fell away. Rhea stood on a world of floating islands suspended above a churning sea of luminescent mist. Bridges of woven light connected the islands, and beings of crystalline anatomy drifted between them, their bodies refracting the violet sun. She knew this place. She had lived here. She had studied the currents of the mist, learned to shape the bridges with her thoughts, laughed with friends whose faces she now remembered with painful clarity. A tremor shook the sky. The violet sun flickered. The spiral appeared vast, hungry, inevitable. The islands shattered. The bridges dissolved. The beings screamed as their bodies fractured into shards of light. Rhea felt herself pulled apart, her consciousness unraveling. She gasped and staggered back into her own body. Kale and Amy were beside her, both trembling, both pale. Kale's voice cracked. I was a historian on a world of living storms. I remember my partner, my children. I remember dying. Amy wiped tears from her eyes. I was a navigator on a world that orbited a black star. I remember the taste of the air, the sound of the tides, the moment everything went dark. Rhea steadied herself. The archive is accelerating the integration. It wants us to understand. Kale looked at the spiral symbol. Understand what? That everything dies? That universes can be erased? Rhea shook her head. No, that something erases them. The spiral pulsed, and the chamber changed. The floor dissolved beneath them, replaced by a vast expanse of stars. They stood on nothing, suspended in a holographic projection of a universe that wasn't theirs. A voice echoed through the void. Not a sound, but a memory. We were the first. A figure appeared, tall, luminous, its form shifting like liquid starlight. Its eyes were twin singularities, deep and ancient. We built the archive to preserve what we could. But preservation was never enough. Rhea felt the memory wash over her. An entire civilization of beings who had mastered consciousness, who had shaped galaxies like clay, who had watched as the spiral devoured everything they had ever known. We learned too late. The spiral is not a force of nature. It is not entropy. It is not time. The figure raised a hand. The stars around them collapsed inward, forming the spiral. It is a predator. Kale shuddered. A predator of universes. The figure nodded. It feeds on possibility, on potential, on the branching paths of reality. It consumes timelines, erases histories, devours entire cosmologies. Amy whispered, Why? Why would anything do that? The figure's voice darkened. Because it must. Because that is its nature. Because existence itself is its prey. Rhea stepped forward. Why show us this? Why choose us? The figure turned to her. Because your universe is next. The stars went dark. Rhea collapsed to her knees, gasping. The chamber returned around them, the spires pulsing in frantic patterns. Kale staggered back. We have to warn the others. We have to tell the council, the fleet, everyone. Amy shook her head. Who would believe us? We sound insane. Rhea stood slowly. The archive didn't choose us to warn others. Kale frowned. Then why? Rhea looked at the spiral symbol. Because we're the only ones who can stop it. They returned to the Alethea in a haze of dread and revelation. The ship felt smaller now, fragile, like a child's toy drifting in a cosmic ocean. Rhea ordered a full lockdown. No communication. No external signals. No transmissions. Kale protested. Rhea, we need to tell someone. Rhea shook her head. If the spiral detects us, it will come faster. Amy paled. You think it can sense us? Rhea nodded. It consumes possibility. The moment we speak of it, the moment we acknowledge it, we become part of its path. Kale sank into a chair. Then what do we do? Rhea stared at the archive through the viewport. We learn. We prepare. We find a way to fight something that devours universes. Amy whispered, How? Rhea closed her eyes. We start by understanding how it chooses its prey. The next days blurred into one another. They analyzed the data from the archive, cross-referencing the memories imprinted in their minds with the holographic records. Patterns emerged. Not random, not chaotic, deliberate. Kale pointed at the display. Every erased universe reached a critical threshold, a moment of divergence, a point where their potential futures multiplied exponentially. Amy frowned. Like a branching timeline? Kale nodded. Exactly. The more possibilities a universe generates, the more appetizing it becomes. Rhea stared at the spiral symbol. Our universe is reaching that threshold. Kale swallowed. We're next. Amy's voice trembled. Then how do we stop it? Rhea turned to them. We don't stop it. We starve it. Kale blinked. Starve it? Rhea nodded. If it feeds on possibility, then we reduce our universe's potential. Collapse the branching paths. Limit the divergence. Amy shook her head. That's impossible. We can't control the entire universe. Rhea's eyes hardened. No, but we can control ourselves. Kale paled. Rhea, what are you saying? Rhea stepped closer to the viewport, watching the archive pulse in the dark. I'm saying we have to make a choice. A single, irreversible choice. One path. One future. No alternatives. Amy whispered, You're talking about determinism. About forcing the universe into a single timeline. Rhea nodded. Yes. Kale stood abruptly. That's insane. That's. Rhea turned to him. It's the only way. Kale shook his head. We don't have the power to do that. Rhea looked back at the archive. But the beings who built the archive did. They returned to the archive one final time. The spires pulsed brighter than before, their lights frantic, desperate. The central nexus glowed with a fierce, white radiance. Rhea stepped onto the platform. The glyphs ignited. The spiral appeared. But this time something else appeared with it. A second symbol. A line. Straight. Unbroken. Singular. Kale inhaled sharply. A countermeasure. Amy whispered, A weapon. Rhea shook her head. Not a weapon. A choice. The spiral pulsed, devouring itself. The line pulsed, unwavering. The chamber trembled. The spires flickered. The archive spoke. Choose. Rhea felt the weight of universes pressing down on her. The memories of countless civilizations. The screams of worlds erased. The hunger of the spiral. Kale grabbed her arm. Rhea, think about this. If we choose the line, we collapse all potential futures. We force the universe into a single path. Amy's voice cracked. We erase free will. Rhea looked at them. Free will means nothing if the universe is devoured. Kale shook his head. There has to be another way. Rhea stepped toward the symbol. There isn't. The archive pulsed. Choose. Rhea reached out. Her fingers brushed the line. The universe screamed. Light engulfed her. She saw every possible future collapsing into one. Every branching path folding inward. Every divergence sealed shut. She saw herself as a child, as an old woman, as a soldier, as a scientist, as a mother, as a corpse. All collapsing into a single thread. She saw Kale and Amy's lives narrowing. Their choices evaporating. Their futures crystallizing into one unbreakable line. She saw the spiral recoil. Starving. Dying. She saw the archive fade, its purpose fulfilled. She saw the universe settle into a single, immutable path. And then, silence. Rhea awoke on the Alethea. Kale and Amy were beside her, both unconscious but breathing. The archive was gone. Not destroyed, not erased, simply gone. As if it had never existed. Rhea stood slowly, her body trembling. She felt different. Lighter, heavier, singular. Kale stirred. Rhea, what happened? Rhea looked at him. We chose. Amy sat up, rubbing her temples. Do you feel it? The quiet. Kale nodded slowly. The universe feels smaller. Rhea exhaled. Safer. Kale looked at her. Did we do the right thing? Rhea stared into the void where the archive had been. I don't know. Amy whispered. What happens now? Rhea turned away from the viewport. Now, we live the only future we have left. In the days that followed, the Alethea resumed its course. The crew never spoke of the archive again. The memories faded, not erased, but sealed, like fossils buried beneath the bedrock of their minds. The universe continued, stable, predictable, singular. But sometimes, late at night, Rhea would stand at the observation deck and stare into the dark between galaxies. And she would feel something. Not hunger, not dread, just absence. A void where possibility used to be. She wondered what futures had been lost. What lives would never be lived. What worlds would never be born. But she never regretted the choice. Because somewhere, in a place beyond time, she felt the spiral's hunger fading, starving, dying, and she knew the universe was safe, for now. Yet sometimes, when she closed her eyes, she heard a whisper, not a threat, not a warning, a memory. Remember us. And she did. She remembered them all, the forgotten worlds, the erased civilizations, the lives she had never lived, and she carried them with her, not as possibilities, but as truths, fixed, immutable, eternal, the last remnants of universes that would never return. The archive was gone, but Rhea Solari was its final vessel, its final witness, its final warning, and she would never forget. This is the end of the sci-fi story, The Archive of Forgotten Worlds. Leave a like if you enjoyed the story, and subscribe for more sci-fi stories. Thanks for listening.